Well, thank you very much. Wow, that's a great introduction. The Lion Queen. But thank you for inviting me to be here with you today. I'm sorry that I'm over the cold, but the remnants are still with me, so I have a bit of a sore throat, but I'll do my best to get through this. And I really appreciate the invitation because your cause is very near and dear to my heart. As we examine the situation in the Middle East and North Africa, which is the subcommittee that I chair, Middle East and North Africa, we hear these horrible tales about the fight of Christians and religious and ethnic minorities, and we can see that the situation continues to deteriorate with no clear end in sight. ISIL's objective, oh, and we've been joined by Bob Dole of Chicago, who's with us. Yay, Bob! I've got a 25-page speech. I'll get through it quickly. Just kidding. But ISIL's objective isn't just to establish their version of radical Islam in the Middle East and North Africa. It's also to destroy the culture and the religious heritage of any and every group that doesn't adhere to its fundamental principles, especially the ancient and historic Christian communities are targeted because of their beliefs. And we have seen ISIL force Christians in Iraq and Syria, and they tell them, you have to flee, you have to convert, or you will face execution. And ISIL has terrorized the Christians in Iraq and Syria, destroying churches and even whole communities and cities. Archaeological sites and those sites held dear by Christians of the Middle East and Syria have met the same fate. The ancient and biblical city of Palmyra was not spared the wrath, destruction, and hatred of this terror group. It is incredible how little attention, however, the plight of the Christians is getting. The media will look at those ancient buildings and they will lament that loss, but they don't talk as much about the slaughter against Christians. And the administration's strategy against ISIL is simply not working. If you've kept up with the news, some intelligence officers came out and said, we have had to cook the books, we've had to alter our findings because the administration wanted a narrative that they were beating ISIL, and so they were presenting information that was skewed at best. And the administration has become tone deaf when it comes to the plight of victims of ISIL, especially religious minorities. The truth is that we cannot tackle the ISIL threat until we deal with the chaos in Syria and in Iraq. And thanks to this administration, they're helping to legitimize Iran, and now we're in a situation where the Obama administration is seeking input from Iran about how to deal with Syria and Iraq. It makes no sense. With this Iranian deal, we have legitimized this illegitimate Iranian regime, and we see how Iran treats its own religious minorities within its borders. Yet, as a result of this Iranian deal and the administration's desire to work more closely with Iran, to bring the regime into the global community where they don't deserve to be, we are seeing a willingness by the administration to collaborate with Iran and in the fight against ISIL, and even in the effort to fight ISIL and defeat this enemy. What kind of signal does that send to the beleaguered Christians and other religious minorities in Iraq and in Syria and elsewhere, when the U.S. is willing to work with a regime that terrorizes its own religious minorities in the fight to save the ancient religious communities of the region? It has been over a year since Congress passed and the President signed into law legislation that established the position of Special Envoy for Religious Minorities in the Near East and South Central Asia. Yet to this day, that position has been unfilled. We do not have anyone that's calling out these atrocious acts against religious minorities. In the years since that position had been established and hasn't been filled, what has happened? ISIL has continued to kill those who they see are people who are not of their faith, and to them those are infidels and they deserve to be slaughtered. Christians, Muslim minorities, Yazidis, and more. These religious communities have seen their homes destroyed, their places of worship pillaged and demolished, and their loved ones raped, beheaded, crucified, kidnapped, tortured. The list of atrocity knows no end. Now is not the time to wait. Now is the time to act. Every day that we do not act brings these ancient religious minority communities that much closer to extinction. The United States of America has a moral obligation to do so much more to support and protect not just the religious and ethnic minorities in the Middle East and Africa, but all who find themselves unable to escape the grips of terror of these despotic, inhumane dictators. Sadly, the respect for human rights has fallen so low on our foreign policy agenda that we have let so many suffer needlessly for so long. Once upon a time, we were the emblem, we were the symbol of human rights. We are better than that. We can do so much more. Human rights must again be part of our priority, part of this administration's agenda. It should go hand in hand with our most significant foreign policy objectives. Yet we have sent the signal to all the thugs of the world that we are willing to overlook all of their human rights abuses if it's somehow to a benefit to the administration for its legacy. So let your members of Congress know, let the administration know that our continued inaction means another victory for ISIL and defeat for religious pluralism and the future of Christians, of Jews, and any Muslim that doesn't adhere to Islam, to ISIL's radical ideology. We need a comprehensive strategy to defeat ISIL. We need to remove Assad. We need to fight in Iraq and in Syria. We need to protect the very future of Christianity in the Middle East. We can do better. We must do better, and it is up to each and every one of us in this room to say this to the administration and to the members of Congress each and every day. We've got to fight for those who think that they have no voice. I don't have a voice, but that's another issue. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'm going to leave you with a very good friend of mine. Bob Dole is a man who understands human rights, and he's been at the forefront of these issues for many years. We're so lucky to have him back in Congress, and he's a good friend. I don't know if you have an introduction for him, so I won't rain on your parade.
I think you just did it. So
but Bob Dole from Chicago, Illinois, yay!